Hi, hello, and welcome back to another week with me, V Noir, or just V, on my podcast. Now, what was I talking about? I literally was about to say that because I am forgetful. But anyway, yes. Oh, let me start off by saying that I am moving my upload days from Tuesdays to Fridays. Friday seems to work out a little bit better for me. That's when the last episode was published. And I'm thinking that, I don't know, Friday seems to work. And I am only going to be doing 2 episodes a week. No, 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 no. 2 episodes a month. And I plan on both setting up a website, which will be the official archive, with YouTube being the. Okay, I'm just hearing my cats in the back. Um, with YouTube being the secondary archive, and I will both on the website when I have it posted up. Hopefully by next episode, I'll have it up and I will drop what that is. What was I saying? No, what was I talking about? Yeah, I will post when the episodes will drop because I am one person doing the editing and everything. Oh. So my cats had found my loop earplugs in the case and they were playing with it, and I don't want to lose those because those are great for just going to concerts or being in public spaces, bars or anything like that. And not I know, buddy. You want to play. It is 11 p.m. and it is not it's time for me to go to sleep. It's time for you to go to sleep. It's time for all of us to be asleep. Yes, I am recording this the night before this should be going out, but we'll also see if it comes out tomorrow. Jesus Christ, they want to be really playful right now. Anyway, what I was trying to say was once I set up the website, I will also set up the publishing schedule for each month of whatever Fridays, because I wanted to do it every 2 weeks, but I don't know if that'll happen. But hopefully it does. Hopefully, I get more of a routine with this because I planned on recording this sooner, but life happens. But yeah, and again, I am one person. I'm recording, I'm editing the audio down, so I'm getting rid of the silences that are too long. I try to get rid of some of my ums when I can, and I'm adjusting the levels so I'm not peaking and blowing out people's ears. So, yeah. Oh, and I was saying that YouTube will be the secondary archive for the podcast because it should upload to YouTube as well. And I will use the community tab on YouTube to post that schedule as well. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, that's how you can do it. That's how you'll be able to see the schedule if you're paying. You want to try to catch this. I mean, you could also subscribe to the pod through YouTube, I guess, as well. I think that's how that works. I mean, my YouTube channel, I'll get back into adding like a visual element to these. I don't know if I'll do the whole episode. I think I'll probably take my favorite parts of an episode or just funny little things I say and make them into shorts and then bring that over to Instagram and make reels, and then I don't know if I'll do a TikTok. I really don't want to do yet another social media anything. But but yeah, just wanted to get that all out of the way. Um and let me confirm this really quick. I will start off by kind of going over a memory of when I first saw the movie Saw in theaters. And that is because, and I'm bringing it up because one, it's Halloween when I'm recording this. But also, 2 days ago, it was the 20th anniversary of the premiere of Saw, and I got to see it originally in theaters with my family. I saw Saw 20 years ago when I was 11 with my whole family. My little brother, who was 7, and my older brother, who was 14, my mom, my dad. I adamantly did not want to see the movie Hellboy. I would have to confirm which Hellboy it was during this time, because there were 2 that came out, now that I think about it. There's the Guillermo del Toro one, and then there was a different one. Or did he do both? Let me double check that. But yeah, I didn't want to see that movie, and my older brother did, and I remember looking in the newspaper, because, you know, that's when people used to look in the newspapers. I remember looking in the newspaper, and I was like, okay, what other movies are playing? Like, what's out? And then I saw Saw. I might have read the description, maybe. And then I looked at the marquee in the theater, because we were at the theater. And I saw that it was playing, and there wasn't a rating. It said NR, not rated, you know, because I knew what that meant. So I was like, well, it doesn't say it's rated R, so maybe it's a kid's movie, maybe it's PG. Audience, the movie is not PG. But I mean, it was an indie movie, and I think, you know, it hits festivals, movie festivals and stuff. I mean, looking at it now, it's like, it's kind of amazing that they were even able to get the cast that they did, because, you know, it's they got Danny Glover to play one of the detectives. They got Carrie he's from The Princess Bride. Other stuff. He's British. God, and I cannot pronounce his last name. And I'm choking. So that's fun. It's like I hear music, but I don't hear music. Very confused. Yeah, so I'm like, how did they get these actors during this time? Anyway, so and I looked it up, and the Hellboy that came out in 2004 was not the Guillermo del Toro directed Hellboy. It was a different one, directed by Brian Taylor. And I think I just thought it looked kind of bad. I don't know. I'm like, and it doesn't have that one guy who was in this movie where he was the Beast, but the Beast looks like a cat. Yeah, I need to find out what this actor's name is. I also remember him being in Sons of Anarchy as well. Boy. Huh? Now I'm confused. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's really funny. So Guillermo del Toro did come out with a Hellboy, and it also did come out in 2004, but the one that we would have seen would have been the other one, because Guillermo del Toro's version came out in April, and the other one that was out came out in June, which is kind of wild because Saw came out in October. So they must have just had it out for longer, I guess. But either way, I'm like, Guillermo del Toro's one was not the one that we would have gone to see at that time. I was wondering about that, because I was like, did they come out in the same year? That's so weird. That's so weird. I might have to look into that more for the next episode. But anyway, so to get into Saw, I mean, I'm like, should I explain Saw? Like, what is Saw about? If we just look at the first movie, at least, because for me, the first three movies are just canonically good, and then it gets even more convoluted after that, and they just keep making movies, and I'm like, I know people are fans of everything else, but for me, the original creators, James Wan and Lee Wendell, from Australia, are the ones that I really, really like. And actually, it's really funny because Lee Wendell he also casts himself, or sorry, he doesn't cast himself. James Wan directs it, and Lee Wendell is the writer, and Lee Wendell ends up playing one of the characters, Adam, who's trapped in this room. So basically, what happens is like two guys wake up. We're really seeing the POV of one guy as he wakes up, and then he realizes that someone else is in the room because it's dark. And when the other guy finds a switch, they the room opens up, and they realize that one, they're like trapped, and there is a dead body, like somebody who shot themselves there on the ground. And now they're like, why are we here? What's going on? What is going on? And what happens is there's Adam, who's a photographer, and he's got a shitty life, man. I wouldn't call him a private detective, but he kind of does these like not like stalking, but he gets hired to photograph people and follow them. I guess kind of like a private detective. He doesn't get paid that much because he's got a shitty apartment. And then there is Dr. Gordon, who was played by Carrie. And when I was trying to rewatch it, I was like, oh, he's a lot calmer in this situation than he should be. I mean, I get him waking up before Lee Wendell's character, Adam, and just being like, well, we're here, I guess. But he was a little too calm. And yeah, so he's a doctor. He realizes what's going on because he remembers that the cops suspect him of being the Jigsaw killer. So I was kind of forgetting that the police part was started through sort of flashbacks of him remembering what happened, and then him and then the police parts kind of going off on their own, which was really interesting. I'm like, I definitely want to give these movies a revisit for sure, but it's pretty amazing to essentially walk into a theater with my family after looking through a newspaper for something else to watch, except aside from the 2004 Hellboy that wasn't directed by Guillermo del Toro, and come out with, having seen one of my favorite movies. And I think that was the first time I'd seen a horror movie in theaters too, because I'd kind of grown up with horror in general. Like, my mom was really into it. Like, Carrie was one of my favorite movies. Like, the one from the 70s was one of my favorite movies. And she would always do a really fantastic impression of the mom from Carrie. And yeah, so I do love that movie. And yeah, it's like when Saw came out too, I was like really into this sort of idea of like vigilantes, because I was really into the Boondock Saints at that time. Death Note was airing on Adult Swim at that time, so I was really into that too. And then also at the same time, Code Geass Lelouch the Rebellion was also on air. So it's like all these things, all these media, because I was thinking of Jigsaw as someone who was, um, because he's putting people in situations, he's not technically killing them, because there is a way to escape. It's just it's really fucked up and kind of sadistic of him to even put them in these situations. But the people he's taking are essentially not great people, and they're also people who would not necessarily be punished for anything, like legally, or like they have, but they just leave the legal system and then go out and do whatever. And like Jigsaw, what's not what his actual name is? The character, not the I don't remember the actor's name. That's Tobin Bell. Oh god dang it. John Kramer. I'm like, I had to remember that. I literally clicked on the Wikipedia of Jigsaw and I still didn't see it. I only skimmed it. Anyway, John Kramer, he is dying of cancer and he realizes he's kind of surrounded by people who don't really appreciate their lives and are just bad people in general. And so, I don't know, to deal with dying, I guess, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna take my engineering degree and I'm gonna make things and I'm gonna put these people to the test. And if they can't get out of these traps, I'm gonna carve out a jigsaw piece because they're missing this essential piece that a human needs, which is like survival or something. Yeah, and that's how he gets his name, Jigsaw Killer, or Jigsaw, because he carves out. I'm like, I don't even remember if that was still happening in the later movies. And what's crazy is that I think by no, I was supposed to say episode. I mean, these movies might as well be episodic because they're only like an hour or something. They might get. I think they get longer after a while, but either way. No, what was I talking about? Oh, I don't even remember if later on in the movies, in the other movies, if people are getting like the jigsaw piece getting carved out of them or anything like that. Because by, spoiler alert, by the third movie, he dies from the cancer. So, well, does he die from the cancer? I mean, he does. He does. He's dead. And then the other movies are like, we're gonna still use Tobin Bell and we're gonna tell his story through flashbacks. And then there was the 10th movie that just came out, which was a prequel. And they've been doing all these prequels and side stories and all this stuff. And like, what's happening? But anyway, I love the first Saw movie. It's one of my favorites. I definitely need to give the whole series a rewatch. And yeah. So I also hope to add in, like, hopefully while I'm editing this, like, you listening to this right now is hearing the Hello Zep theme song for Saw, and it's just the dun 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 dun. Oh, I don't have enough time, but I would have totally like done a recording of me on violin doing that riff so that I wouldn't get like a copyright strike. But we'll see. Maybe I'll take this clip right here and then have me as like in a short playing the Saw theme song. But yeah, moving on. Let's go over our shows that we were watching. So we're continuing on with High Potential. episode 3. It was titled Murder in a Hotel Room. And, again, Morgan's using her skills of like cleaning to realize that, oh, this was timed in such a way for the for us to think that this person was killed at a particular time, but because of the way this candle was and all the stuff, like yada yada, they actually died this time. This episode was kind of sad though, just in general, because we find out that the person who was killed was essentially preying on lonely women while also being married and with a child. Um, but he's preying on these women, or like women, like one of the main victims was this older woman who was in a care facility who has dementia. And she's talking about her boyfriend who needed $200,000 to build their home in Mexico, their vacation home in Mexico. And her son, who is devastated by that. Yeah, that was really sad. I was like, wow, that was cool. So he would have these like relationships with women who have money, and another victim of his was a doctor, because it's like he would get this money from these women, but then he would also act like he didn't have money and like he was poor, and like he would, I don't know, he was weird. But of course, when the wife of the person who got killed finds out about what he was doing, she's like, I don't want any of this money. You have to at least give it back to the victims, because this is, oh my God, I feel awful. And so what ends up happening is the son of the woman with dementia ends up being the killer, and a doctor who was getting preyed on by him kind of helps. Like she meets up with the victim in the hotel, and she makes it so that, one, he's like drugged and he falls asleep, and she also opens the window so that the son can climb through the climb in, like kind of like rock climbing up. So he scaled the building. There we go. I was like, oof, what are words? Um, which was pretty crazy. I was like, oh my God. But this one was sad. I was like, oh, he kind of deserved it, low key. Because, wow, you're really taking advantage of people. And that's really shitty. And then, ooh, and then the fourth episode was pretty crazy. Oh, I realized, I'm looking at my notes. It's not that the episode was called Murder in a Hotel Room. I wrote that so I could remember what happened. I don't actually know what the episode was called. Um, but yeah, the fourth episode involved two children missing, and I'm like, how do I explain this? Of course, Morgan, we see her basically going through episodes of insomnia, so she's not even sleeping. And then she finds out about these missing children, and her being a mom and having her own children, she's just like on high alert and just super anxious. So she both can't sleep, and she's not anxious because she knows how's it feel. She knows how it would feel if her children were abducted from her. So she really, really wants to help this mom and figure out what she can do. And so when they interview the mom's family, she finds out they everyone finds out. It's not just her there, the cops. Her cop partner is there too. uh, yeah, they find out that the dad really didn't like her ex-husband because according to him, he was like super militant about environmentalism and wanted to live off the grid, and CPS didn't judge him to be a good fit to take care of them. And they found that kind of suspicious. And typically in what could happen in like a kidnapping case, especially because a child needs to be missing for 24 hours in order for it to be considered kidnapping, and then they can get a team together and everything like that. But essentially, what typically happens, I've said that so many times just now, is that the children are abducted by either a parental figure or a family member. Like that's just what happens. That's just the 90% chance probability that that is what happened, rather than a stranger taking them. Like somebody that knows them would be the person to take them. So they suspect the dad right away, and the children were actually supposed to be at his place because that's how the custody was set up. And the whole reason why she thinks they're missing is because she's tried to call them. She's tried to call the dad. He was supposed to drop them off. He hasn't dropped them off. So now the cops and Morgan head over to his place, and they see that there's kind of like everything's in disarray in like the actual home, like where they're eating. Um, like Morgan picks up that he would be the kind of person that would, and she has kids. So she's like, no, these kids would have definitely finished their food, and he seems like the kind of person that would have cleaned up. So they take a look around, they find his greenhouse and everything, and she realizes that, you wouldn't plant these tomatoes next to this other vegetable. Someone did this in a hurry. And we know that he is very much heavily into environmentalism, that he wouldn't make this kind of mistake. So she's like, I think we need to move these. And um they end up finding the dead body of the ex-husband. So now this is escalated higher because who the person that would have been the main suspect is now dead. So yeah, they gotta find these kids. Ooh, it gets so dramatic. And then, of course, her cop partner, starts to kind of suspect well, he's a little suspicious of the mom. He definitely suspects, her dad of potentially killing the ex-husband or something, or even kidnapping the daughters. And he, he did send somebody after the ex-husband, actually, so that was all but confirmed that that guy would have been the one to kill, who might have killed him, and also might have kidnapped the girls. And the dad of the mom who has missing children, uh, he tries to call the person who would have done the job, the deed, and can't get a hold of him, and he gives over his information, at least like what he looks like and stuff, so they can try to track him down and everything like that. They find him, they find his van, there's no kids. And it's like, okay, so this guy doesn't have the kids. Who has the kids? And now at this point, a ransom comes in. So now they know for sure that somebody's kidnapped them. And of course, the cops don't know about the ransom yet because the mom starts acting suspicious and like, it's okay. You don't have to be involved anymore. No, no, no. And she ends up stealing something from her parents. Her parents are really fucking loaded. And her dad very much didn't like her living with this environmentalist because it's so very much the antithesis of his livelihood and like what he does. Uh, yeah. And yeah, so she stole something that would have been the exact amount that she needed to give to the ransom. And she ends up getting the money, but then Morgan figures out what she's doing and they reach her before the handoff and they plan to like sort of help catch the guy and unfortunately that doesn't go so well, but they do shoot him, which is okay. So this is crazy. So they do he gets a shot out on the guy, which I thought he did. And then Morgan figures out that it's actually the chauffeur of the family that did this. And we find out that he's been secretly in love with the mom this whole time and has some weird um, fantasy about how much she loves him and how much they're in love and all this stuff and how he would be a better dad to her children and all this stuff. And he was actually the one that killed the ex-husband and something crazy. But when he gets interrogated and he tells all this stuff, I was like, why doesn't he look like he's in pain? Why isn't he in a hospital at least? Like, what's going on? You know? So, yeah, that was weird. But that was that episode. And what else did I watch? I actually got into Korean drama. I was trying not to binge it, and I was watching a bunch of it, but I haven't actually watched it recently. It's called The Judge from Hell. It's on Hulu, of course. And it is, give you a synopsis, or at least what it says. Devil secretly lives in the body of a judge with a mission to drag criminals back to hell. Interesting thing, right? uh, no, it's been really fun. And I'm like, ooh, it's really good. It's really well written to the point where I do want to binge it like I used to in like high school, early 20s, college. But I have to sleep. Sleep is actually very important. Um, yeah, so basically what happens is we see this woman get stabbed and die, right? She goes to hell, basically, where she is going to get judged for whether or not, she goes to regular hell or super hell. By Justia, I believe, who's like the judge in hell. I actually need to look up the mythology. Either way, but her assistant, Justina's assistant, is like, that other person was like our last person of the day. I don't. This person is here, but I don't think we need to judge this person. I think there's been a mistake. And she's like, "Mm, there's never a mistake. Why would there be a mistake? This person is here. Obviously, they're going to super hell." And she ends up, there's like this stamp that she uses to place over someone to as a final judgment. And yeah, that person gets sent to super hell. And then BL shows up and is like, haha, you fucked up, actually. That person didn't need to go to super hell. They needed to go to fake hell to get punished. So you messed up. You judged that person too soon. And oh, and I was like, oh wow, I feel like this is gonna be all the special effects we're gonna see for this show. um, and what's it? Yeah, so he punishes her by sending her soul into the body of the woman she mistakenly judged and put in super hell. And she's got to now live as this person for a year in the human world and capture 10 souls and send them to hell. That's her punishment. And her assistant is forced to go there too, unfortunately. And he's like, but I didn't, I was trying to tell her otherwise. So yeah, that's basically the show. It's been really fun. It's been pretty interesting. Because she's so funny. And like she's been living in hell like however long she's been alive. So she doesn't really understand. It's like she knows how to like navigate a bit, but she not social cues, but it's just interesting seeing someone who basically is a demon interact in a way. Oh, actually, so what happens is, guess she was sprouting all these things and about being a demon. So she was in a psychiatric ward and she's telling them, like, yes, I'm a demon. And they're like, uh-huh. So this person suffers from delusions. And I was hoping that the show wouldn't be that, where they're just like, well, we could have this supernatural show, but actually this person is just delusional. Which was kind of funny. I mean, I don't know why I just said that. It would not be funny. I would actually hate that. I'm like, no, I want the people, I want at least somebody to believe her. What ended up happening is one of her first cases is dealing with a cop who is being sued by someone that the cop arrested for hurting his hand while he's getting arrested. I'm like, that's silly. Why would you? That's dumb. Go away. And the cop's like confident enough that he's like, I don't need a lawyer or whatever. Like I'm confident. Uh, you know, and she actually does take the cop's side and like the cop's like, "Oh, you're really honest and interesting as a judge and I actually like admire you and stuff." Actually. Like he wants to get to know her and things like that. And she's just like, uh-huh, yeah, whatever. And I think in later episodes, I'm like on episode 6, 5. Yeah, I'm on episode 5. I need to finish up episode 5. But in a few episodes, she does eventually tell him that like no, she's a demon, and she does kind of stuff. Oh, that's what happens. Because I paused on watching this. I'm gonna get back into watching it. Oh, because it's good. He her assistant convinces her to try to get on the good side of the cop because the cop um would have information on like killers or people that would probably like escape ever being fully tried and like put to jail. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea actually. You could literally get all these people, kill them and send them to hell and you'd be done within like a month maybe. Um But she's like really stubborn, and I'm like, come on, girl, please, just work with me here. But I'm like, yeah, this wouldn't be a drama if you know a character was so easy to deal with. I'm like, nah, she's 3 dimensional. She has her own way of doing things, so she doesn't need any help. But then eventually she's like, no, she comes around to it, and she's like, actually, let me get him drunk and coerce this information out of him. And she does get him drunk, and he ends up telling her that he's a killer. And she's like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Girl, please get more information." She ends up stabbing him and then stamping him, and then of course Beale shows up again and is like, you've literally misjudged this person. Why did you do that?" "I'm bringing him back to life." "Why did you do that?" And she's like, and then so he doubles her punishment to 20 people, and she's only killed one at that point. So, yeah, I'm like, Please research. But honestly, I feel like if she didn't do that, he wouldn't believe her about being a demon because after the fact, he's so convinced that, like, no, you literally stabbed me and I died. And then, of course, they go back to the precinct and she's handcuffed and everything. And they do the breathalyzer on him and he's still like actively drunk. There's alcohol still in the system. They're like, you're just making this up. And she, of course, is just like, oh no, I just thought he was just into this. I thought he was just kinky. I thought that's why he put handcuffs on me because she's being compliant and everything. And I'm like, oh, she's funny. But yeah, so it does start happening where, oh yeah, like at that point she's gotten two people. And I think they figured out that, like, okay, if the person has killed more than once, that should hopefully count as like more than one towards the amount of people that they need to send to hell, which I think it does. I don't know. There's like 12 episodes now. I don't know if it might end at 16 because this started coming out in September. I'm like, ooh, I'm not even fully caught up yet. But I'm excited to continue watching this though. I'm like, it's very interesting. It's pretty funny too. And yeah, he believes her to be a demon because she has this knife that she can summon and use, and she does that in front of him. And he's like, whoa, how'd you do that? Whoa, that's crazy. And yeah, that's that and a few other things she does that convinces him, like, okay, maybe she. I think he was like, I believe that you believe that. But I think at some point he comes around to it and he's like, you know what? I want to know who you are. But, ooh, and there's like romance brewing, of course, because K drama. But apparently it's dangerous for demons to feel any sort of human emotion. And she does start to feel something because at some point he loses interest in her, or like he is like, I'm not going to be involved with you anymore. I'm not going to try to know you because she keeps behaving in a way that he's like, I don't really like that. Um, and and I'm trying to remember what episode it was. Yeah, I guess I am on episode 5 because so far what it's done is she has the first person she sent to hell, that story, that plot went over 2 episodes. And then the second person she sent to hell, that plot also went over to 2 episodes. And now I'm on the 5th episode. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, but yeah, he just wasn't liking how she was, because these were cases that were being brought to her. He wasn't liking how she judged them because she was being really lenient with these people. And it was only because she was trying to get them to not go to jail so she could kill them herself and send them to hell. Um, but on his end of things, like being in the precinct and everything like that, they're like, huh, it's weird. These people that she keeps judging and being lenient with, they end up dying after the fact. And they're dying in the same way, getting stabbed and then stamped with something that probably got as high as 200 degrees to imprint this on their forehead. So it's feeling like we're getting a serial killer on our hands. Yeah. But I'm definitely excited to watch more of the show. I Yeah, I'm like, I'm on episode 5. There's 12. We gotta get the rest of it. Yeah. And I'm like, I could talk about Hobbit because I did watch that too, and it was cute. I'll talk about it briefly. So Hobbit Elementary uh is a show on ABC Family. Oh no, sorry. It's on ABC. ABC Family doesn't exist anymore. That's now Freever, I think, or something. Anyway, so Hobbit Elementary is sort of a documentary style show about teachers who live in Philly and all the things that can happen there. It was created by Quentin Bronson, everyone's internet cousin, black people's internet cousin. And yeah, she's come so far. It's kind of wild. Like she did BuzzFeed stuff and then yeah, no, she's cool. And she stars in it and she kind of was inspired by her mom who was a teacher. And if you've watched the show, what is the name of the character? Barbara is kind of based on her mom, which is really cute. It's in its fourth season now, I believe. Yeah, it's in its fourth season. And we ended the third season with her and, wow, I'm not remembering these names. Her and Gregory making out and whatnot. And of course, we started the fourth season with them secretly dating. Woo! Oh, very cute, very cute. They're so cute. I did catch up with it. It's just, it's just a feel good show. About teachers. It's really cute. It's really nice. It's a comedy. It's giving sitcom, but not like old school sitcom where people are kind of stuck in a house. Because I feel like a lot of sitcoms are just like in houses on sets, really. I do love how they're doing the mockumentary style. It's really cute. It's really funny. And it's just a good, fun show. I love it. And I wanted to wrap it all off with the movie that I saw in theaters week or two ago called The Substance. Hoo hoo hoo. People were talking about it a lot. People people are interesting. I was seeing people kind of give this the Barbie treatment of like, okay, at least with Barbie, because uh America Ferrera does that whole speech about like what it means to live as a woman or whatever. And, people took it as like feminist theory 101. And I'm like, yeah, you can definitely take it as that because this would be a great like entry level to sort of get someone to start thinking about like their role as a woman in society and how other people sort of dictate what those like societal expectations of like how you should dress, how you should behave, what careers you should do, what your hobbies should be, all of these things. And for me, I'm like, what she says is like so close when the whole point is like you shouldn't take any of those things into account and live for yourself and do what you want. And as someone who's not binary, it's like, and I was born AFAB and whatnot. It's like, like you're a woman if you say you're a woman. That's how I feel. And I'm like, I'm not a woman. I don't want to be a man. I am on testosterone, but it's not like it's more to do with like wanting to have a deeper voice, wanting to have more like a muscle definition. And like if anything, I want to look more like a female bodybuilder than a man, a male bodybuilder. I was like, why did I go from female to man? Weird. Um, yeah, but I also don't want my chest because I also realize that like me before puberty is like the most comfortable I'd ever been in my body, and puberty for me was something that felt so like uncontrollable. Like it was a thing happening to me and not something that I was doing to myself. Um, so there was a lack of control there. But I mean, Barbie's a cute movie. People, um, I feel like it was a wide awakening for a lot of people when it came to opening their eyes up to like societal expectations of womanhood and what it is to be a woman. And people were kind of doing that same thing with the substance and thinking of it as like, well, this is supposed to be a movie about how Hollywood treats women and aging women specifically, and how that affects you or whatever. And I'm like, sure, that's like the larger theme, and I'll get into the synopsis right now. But I think differently about what the substance is about, and I'm like, of course, anybody can relate to anything and see anything in media. I mean, that's what art is for, really. It's like somebody makes a piece of art with their own worldview and intentions, and then when they put that out to the world, that art no longer becomes theirs, because everybody else has other perspectives and things that they put into it. So I understand. It's just I don't necessarily agree. I don't. I don't think the movie boils down to only that. Anyway, so to get into the synopsis, Elizabeth Sparkle, renowned for an aerobics show, faces a devastating blow on her 50th birthday as her boss fires her. Amid her distress, a laboratory offers her a substance which promises to transform her into an enhanced version of herself. Which, yeah, that's basically the plot. um, It has Demi Moore playing Elizabeth Sparkle, and Demi Moore is actually she's not 50. She's actually 61. So she's playing a woman 10 years younger than she actually is. And so it stars Demi Moore and Margaret Quilley. I hope I pronounced her last name right. And um Dennis Quaid is also in here. He has like a gross scene in this movie. I'm like, this movie gets a lot, but his scene in particular was gross because I hate seeing people chew with their mouth open. I hate seeing spit. So I was like, oh, this is gross. Compared to everything else in the movie, which is so funny. But yeah, The Substance came out this year. It is a French production created by Caroline Fargrit. Trying to do the little French accent. And she's done like a few other movies. I think this is pretty popular. But anyway, let's get into it and my thoughts. So Demi Moore, she's playing Elizabeth. I've already said this. And yeah, she gets fired and she's like, you can't fire me. And she remembers she hears about this thing called the substance. And she reaches out to the laboratory to provide this to her. She gets it. And you get this really crazy, like, birthing scene essentially where she takes the substance, she falls out on the ground, and then her back rips open. I guess, um, content warning for gore. Her back rips open and like you see fingers coming out and like uh her perfect self Sue comes out, and that is played by Margaret Quilley. And yeah, she okay. Big thing about the substance too is that the people in the laboratory continuously say that you are one. You're not two separate, you are one. So the consciousness is connected to the two. Um, and I had to keep repeating that to myself as well, especially in later on parts of the movie, because I was like, no, this is crazy. Um, and so, uh, yeah, so now she's Sue, and Sue goes, oh, she marches down to the offices because now they're trying to hire someone new, right? And of course, they hire Sue, and she's like, of course you would, because I'm perfect. I'm beautiful and young. And oh, man. So what starts to happen is Elizabeth gets addicted to being Sue because she thinks of her actual self as ugly, lonely, just all these things that isn't Sue. But the main thing, though, is that she can only be Sue 7 days, and then she has to switch back to her original self. She can't do more than that. And so when she ends up going a little over, um, when she wakes up as her original self, she realizes that part of her finger rapidly aged. And she calls the laboratory because she's like, oh, shoot, something messed up. And they're like, no, I mean, yeah, you did, but we can't fix that. You stole your own life force. You are one. You need each other. So if you go out of what our like our time frames are, you will start to affect the other. Which is interesting because now I'm thinking like, what would have happened if Elizabeth had more of a self-esteem and wanted to live more of her normal self? Like, would Sue be okay? Like, I feel like now she's kind of stuck in the cycle of being Sue and being Elizabeth. And, ooh, she gets addicted to being young and hot and, um, like admired by people because she's not getting that as much as Elizabeth. I mean, she is, but she doesn't see it. Like she thinks beauty is in youth. Um, which sucks too because there's a scene that happens where she runs into someone that used to know her in like high school or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I always had this big crush and like, oh, we should meet up and all this stuff." And she plans on going on this date with him to just chat or whatever, and we see her getting ready and all this stuff, and she's putting her makeup on. And this was such a sad scene for me because you could, with how Demi plays it, it's like you could see her slowly lose faith in herself, lose the confidence in herself as she continuously repaints her face and um tries to leave the house, and she can't. She ends up missing the dinner. And that, I think, truly jumps her into being Sue more and more. And then so when we're going back to her as Elizabeth, she is super old. She's so much older than she was. So she's like completely fucked up how she actually normally looks, and she treats Sue as a separate entity from herself and doesn't want to be that old, ugly, quote unquote, self, especially now that she's rapidly aged her into not even looking like she looked when she was 50, and like I don't even know, she's like what, 90, 100, like oof. And I'm trying to think. Oh, so Sue was going to host a New Year's Eve party. This is kind of, we're coming at like the climax, I guess. And she realizes that shoot, she's gonna end up missing this because the timing of it doesn't work because she needs to not be Sue because she's basically gonna hit the seventh day the day before. And so she is like, you know what? We're gonna go past these 7 days. We're gonna do it. We're just gonna keep going. And when she tries to get to the no, she makes her way to the news I was about to say news article. No, when she gets to the studio where the New Year's party is gonna happen, she starts to decay because she hasn't given herself over to being the older version of herself. So there's this whole thing where um she has to take fluid from her older self, her original self, that lasts like 7 days, but the fluid is murky. The fluid is gross. The fluid isn't pure anymore because Sue has lived too long, lived past the 7 days. So now she can't get clean fluid. So she tries the murky shit and that starts to decay her. She is literally falling apart. Her teeth are falling out. Her fingernails are falling off. And I mean like her literal nail bed. Not just like her fingernails, like her nail beds are falling off. And it's bad. And she tries to call up the laboratory and they're saying again, y'all are one. You need each other. Literally. I can't do anything for you. And then Sue gets an idea. She decides to give herself the substance because obviously, obviously, um, if this is a beautiful version of myself, of my original self, the copy of a copy should also be beautiful, right? And the substance says it's a one-time use, and it definitely is. Because when Sue takes it and another birthing scene happens, it is not another better version of Sue. No, 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 no. It's an amalgamation of both of them. And it is a monster. But the monster, again, it's got their consciousness. It knows what's going on. And I'm trying to remember the plot because I'm like, something does happen, but I'm like, I think it happens after, but I'm also remembering the monster part happening um at the end as well. Um Either way, so the monster gets in Sue's outfit and no, I did skip over this. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. So basically what happens is uh before the monster thing, we'll come back. So yeah, skipped ahead a bit. Not by that much. So basically, Sue's been living as Sue for like 3 months because she loves it or whatever. And she runs out of the stabilizer fluid, which is what it's called, which is basically what she's been taking from the back of Elizabeth in order to be stable. But again, this is only they they should have been switching every 7 days. She should not have been Sue for 3 months. So now with the New Year's party coming up, um, and her not being able to get that fluid from the back, and like I was saying, it was grody. She can't use it. Um, the she calls up the laboratory and they're like, "You gotta switch. Y'all were supposed to be switching. Y'all are one. Y'all affect each other. Like, yeah, you gotta switch." So she does switch back. I kind of forgot. I mean, I didn't forget. I just forgot that this happened before the amalgamation of them part happened. So she switches back, and because Sue has been living as Sue for 3 months, Elizabeth now looks not great. Not great. And so Elizabeth kind of gained a little bit of courage, and she's like, I I look worse than I did before I even started the substance. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to rapidly change because of being Sue, which she doesn't say, but she doesn't say the being Sue part because she forgets that it is her making these choices. Um, so they send her a termination serum to kill Sue, essentially. And she almost goes through with it. She does stab Sue with it. She does inject it a little bit. And then she's like, "No, but the New Year's party, I could host that. I could be that. I could be Sue." And she regrets what she's doing and she stops and she essentially um brings her back to life because she tries to get all the termination fluid out of her. But then this somehow causes Sue to wake up, and they're not both supposed to be awake at the same time, which is crazy. So then Sue wakes up, sees this older self, and then sees the termination fluid, and she's like, "Bitch, what? You were gonna kill me? I'm a better version of you. You don't kill me." And then she proceeds to beat the shit out of this older version of her and beats her to death, actually. So that's what happened. And then all the other stuff that I said about like Sue decaying and then taking the substance herself because now her original self is dead. So, yeah. So now there's this amalgamation of Sue and Elizabeth that is roaming around and puts on the New Year's Eve dress and has a picture of Elizabeth as a mask and it makes it to the studio sound room sound stage. There we go. And get talking tries to do stuff and everybody in the audience is horrified. I'm just like, wow, this is happening. This is happening. And I mean it was just one of those scenes where I was just like staring, mouth open, like, okay, we're just gonna like start bleeding and spraying blood into the audience and everywhere, and then the monster, um, yeah, kind of not really terrorizes, but everybody's just shocked and like it's bleeding and spraying and it makes it outside and then it starts to fall apart and decay. And there's this face of Elizabeth that kind of moves a little bit and then it makes it to Elizabeth Sparkle's Hollywood star. And then it kind of turns into a puddle of blood. And that's the end of the movie. It was a journey. It was a journey. But for me, I definitely took this more. It's like it's a story that you can see in the bigger picture of Hollywood and how it treats aging actresses. Because I'm like, yeah, that is how it happens. But for me, I definitely was like, I'm gonna zoom in and I'm gonna keep it to what I'm actually seeing, which is like a story about a deeply insecure woman who is aging, who um gets addicted to a drug. She has a drug addiction. She's addicted to this feeling of youth and um being admired in this way. And then I mean honestly, yeah, she kind of overdoses on it. Like this definitely was more about drug usage and having like a low self-esteem and like when it's her conscious split between her original self and Sue while they're both awake, like herself killing herself because again the two are one, so this is her doing harm to herself and literally killing herself because of the ugliness that she was feeling as that other self. I'm like that's really like to me that's definitely more what the movie is and like how I mean, we can get into like how society kind of makes you feel that way about yourself, but instead of um, you know, like being mad at it externally, you internalize that and you start blaming yourself when it's like, no, let's just not engage with any of this. Um, but yeah, I'm like, for me, it was definitely more of a sad movie because in the end, I feel like she just wanted to be loved and be admired, and she was able to get that through this drug, and then the drug ultimately killed her. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna wrap it up there on that lovely note, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.